Hey, I'm Chef Rich, a classically trained chef, author, and award-winning culinary educator. With over 2 decades of experience, I've discovered that food is more than just food. It's our greatest medicine. But here's the truth. There is no quick fixes, magic pills, superfoods, or diets that work. Welcome to a different kind of cooking show. Our mission? To inspire, educate, and prove that getting healthy doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. I'll share tips on saving you money at the grocery store, saving you time in the kitchen, and creating meals that everyone will eat. I'll expose the lies about food, reduce the stress about what's for dinner, and remove the struggle of getting healthy. If you give me a chance, I promise, we'll always make it fun, easy, and delicious. Now let's get cooking. Hey, Chef Rich here, and welcome to One Plate Kitchen, where we save you money at the grocery store, save you time in the kitchen, and make delicious meals that are easy, fun, and healthy. Today we're making a lemon chicken with broccoli, and we're gonna do some whole wheat pasta. I promise you're gonna love it, and it's gonna be super fast. Now let me introduce the stars of the show, our ingredients. Now today we're using some lean chicken breast. We also have some lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. We have some cherry tomatoes that are delicious and sweet. We have our amazing herb salt. We have our smoked paprika. Not spicy, but it gives it a nice flavor. We have our red onions, which is our star ingredient of the day. We have our parsley. We have some garlic, some bell peppers. We have to show love to our frozen friends also. Every show will always have a frozen friend. Today our frozen friend is going to be our broccoli. Then we have our whole wheat pasta and we have some chicken stock. Now, since you know all our ingredients, let's get cooking. So the first thing we're going to start with is the chicken. Now we're using a chicken breast, not chicken thighs, and the chicken breast is a lean protein. Now there's good and bads about using a lean protein. It's a good thing because it's really healthy for us. It's a bad thing because when we cook it, there's a good chance that we can overcook it and it becomes dry and tough. So I'm going to get our chicken breast here. And we have a beautiful piece of chicken breast here. Now what we want to do is kind of just trim up some of this chicken. All right, I want to get rid of some of this fat that's in there. We don't really need that at all. So I'm just going to trim this up. And usually there's always a little cartilage piece here. We want to make sure that we just cut that little cartilage piece right out. It's not a bad thing, you don't want to chew on that. Now if we're looking at chicken breast, it's a pretty big chicken breast. Now, if I was to try to cook this, what probably would happen is the outside of the chicken breast would start to get really dry, and then it starts to get stringy and tough, and I don't want that to happen. So the way we can stop that or prevent that from happening is we're going to butterfly this. Now, to butterfly it, it helps us in a couple ways. Number one, it's going to speed up the cooking process. Now, since I have a thinner piece of chicken to cut or to cook, it's going to cook much quicker. And what will happen is it'll also prevent it from drying out and getting really tough and stringy. So to butterfly this, what we're going to do is you'll take it, put your hand right on top of it, and then you're going to take your knife. And you want to make sure you have a sharp knife, and you're just going to kind of slice right into it. All right, so you're going to lift this up, and you'll see the edge right there. And all you're going to do is just keep on slicing, Let your knife do all the work. And then once we get to the very last part, all I'm going to do is just cut right through. So now, magically, I have turned dinner for 2 into dinner for 4 if I was going to do both breasts. All right, so now I have 2 pieces here, which is great. Now we have a golden rule when we cook. You always want to make sure your pots, your pans, your ovens, whatever it is that you're going to cook in, is always hot and waiting for you. The last thing you want to do is wait for your pans to heat up or for your oven to get hot. All right, now a hot pan helps you in a couple of different ways. Number one, it gives you a better sear. All right, once the pan is nice and hot and I put my chicken in there, it'll start to brown that side where it's touching. The hotter the pan is, the better sear it's going to be. That better sear means more flavor. And number two, it helps because once I put it in there, initially it's going to stick. But as it starts to cook and as it starts to do its thing, what will happen is it'll just lift right up. It'll unstick itself, lift right up, and you can just flip it up like a nonstick pan. So I got my pan on. I'm going to let that heat up. And what I'm going to do now is start to kind of season my chicken. All right, so I'm going to use a little paprika. So we'll get some paprika in there. And how much you want to use is totally up to you. Now, if you didn't want to use paprika, if you wanted to use chili powder, if you wanted to use your own favorite spice mix, go for it. You can use that. All right, all I'm going to do is kind of rub this in now just to make sure it's evenly incorporated in there. Now I'm going to take some of the most amazing seasoning in the world, my 1 plate herb salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle it all over. All right, again, I just want to kind of mix this in. I just want to make sure it gets in every little nook and cranny in there. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to season the other side too. Same process. A little paprika. We'll just sprinkle that on. Oops, maybe a little too much, and then a little bit of herb salt. We'll sprinkle that on. And again, we just want to mix it in there just to get it incorporated well. And you'll see some salt goes to the bottom of the pan, or you'll see some of the spice mix gets on the bottom of the cutting board, which is fine. You'll just use your chicken just to kind of pick all that up. All right, we don't want to waste anything. All right, now, what I don't want to do is take this now, when I just put my seasoning mix on it, and I don't want to put it right into my pan right away. And the reason I don't is because you see it's still kind of like a powder on top of it. If I was to put this in the pan right away, what will happen is there's a good chance that my seasoning mix will burn. So what I want to do is just let it sit here and allow it to be one with the chicken. Meaning that I just want it to kind of incorporate in there, and you'll see it'll change. It'll start to absorb some of the moisture in the chicken, and it'll become almost like a crust on top of it. That's the perfect time that we can put it in there. Now, while I let that sit, I'm gonna get some olive oil in my pan. Now, how much olive oil do I need? I need about a tablespoon of olive oil. And just to show you, we're only going to use a tablespoon. I'm going to pour 1 tablespoon and just get that in my pan. And you'll see that more than enough. But I want to make sure it's nice and hot. Now I'm going to get my chicken. And you can see it's starting to get a little bit of moisture absorbed on there, which is great. So now it's going to give me that nice crust. Get it in my pan, and you want to hear that nice sizzle. Now, if I was doing 4 pieces of chicken here, I have another piece over there. If I was going to do all 4 pieces, I would have to do this in sets. I don't want to put all 4 pieces in here because I can tell right now it wouldn't fit. And I would be overcrowding the pan. Now, if I overcrowd the pan, what will happen is I'll start to build steam, and steam will actually, 1, make it stick, and 2, it won't give me that nice crust and that nice flavor that I'm looking for. So we want to make sure we only put enough where it'll fit in there, where they really don't touch each other. Now, since I got that in there, I'm going to take my cutting board and get rid of this. All right, one of the big dangers that we have is with cross-contamination. So I want to make sure I take my cutting board, I get rid of it, I wash it well, and I get my knives and I wash those well, and also wash my hands. So let me get this over here, and I'm going to wash my hands real quick. Now we're going to do a pasta with this. So I want to start the pasta. One of the things I want to do before I even get to my pasta, water is boiling. Now there's a rule when making pasta. For every 16 ounces or 1 pound of pasta, you want to have 4 quarts of water. So for every pound of pasta, you want a gallon of water. And it should be boiling, rapidly boiling. Now we're going to season our water. And I know it sounds crazy that you season your water, but yeah, we're going to season our water. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add some salt to it. What happens there is the pasta will absorb that salt water, and it'll actually give you flavor. If I did it where I cooked it without any salt, what'll happen is my pasta will absorb the water and it'll still cook, but it'll be very, very bland. So whatever I add it to, it'll actually take down the flavor of that entire dish. So we want to be really careful with that. Now, how much salt do you put in there? And I know this is going to sound crazy, but you want to put enough salt in there where it's kind of like salty, like the ocean. And I know that sounds crazy, but I promise you, it doesn't mean your pasta is going to be salty. It will not be salty. It just means it's going to have that flavor in there. All right. One of the other things you don't need to do is you don't need to add oil to the water. I know a lot of people do this and it really makes no sense because it doesn't help your pasta at all. All right, so we want to make sure we don't need to put any oil in there. All right, and most people put it in there only because they think it's not going to stick, but I promise you it'll still stick either whether you put it in there or not. All right, once we strain it, we get rid of all that oil and water. Once it sits in that strainer, it's going to stick. So we want to be careful with that. We don't need to put that in there. So let's season this water up. I'll show you how to do that. So now we got our water seasoned. Now I'm going to make sure I add my pasta to it. So I'm going to just take it and just kind of put it in there and just let it sit. One of the things that drives me crazy is when people don't set timers. All right, pastas, depending on what kind of pasta it is. I mean, it could be a spaghetti, it could be a linguine, it could be orzo, it can be any kind of pasta. They all have different cooking times. All right, the temperature is always going to be the same. It's always going to be at a boil, but they all have different cooking times. So we want to make sure we set a timer so ours comes out perfect all the time. Now we got our pasta cooking away, which is great. It's boiling nicely. Now let's check our chicken and see how it looks. So we're just going to take it and give it a quick flip over. And you can see, I mean, initially it's stuck, but once we go to flip it over, it flips over like it's a non-stick pan. And that's what we want. A nice hot pan will always do that for you. Take our other piece, flip that over, and we got a beautiful color there, which is looking great. Now we'll cook it on the other side for about the same amount of time, maybe 1 or 2 minutes less, and I promise you that chicken will be perfect. Now our pasta is working, our chicken is working. Now let's cut up some of these vegetables. All right, let's start with those onions first, which is our star ingredient. Now, while I cut this up, let's learn more about our star ingredient. Check this out.
Hey, Chef Rich here. I hope you're enjoying the show. I want to talk about onions. You know them as that vegetable that makes you cry. But did you know they're also nutrient dense and historical? In ancient times, they were used medicinally to treat ailments like headaches, heart disease, and mouth sores. Today, we have red, green, or yellow or white onions, and we use them for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even some desserts. Now, onions are high in cortisone, an antioxidant that fights cancer. They have powerful anti-inflammatory properties that can help lower the risk of heart disease and can help lower cholesterol. They help promote insulin production and iron absorption, and they're high in potassium. Now, before we get back to cooking, let me leave you with this. You can get healthy if you focus on today, right now. Forget about the past and don't worry about tomorrow. Let's walk this journey together. Now let's get back to the kitchen.
Welcome back to One Plate Kitchen. I bet you didn't know all that about onions. They're really good for you, so I want you to start using them in a lot of different dishes. Let's take a look at this chicken because it smells amazing. So you can see it's got a beautiful color on one side. We flip it over and it looks amazing on that side too. So I would say our chicken is done now. Let's take our chicken out and just set that aside and let it rest. Now once we take our chicken out and let it rest, you'll see the bottom of the pan has like a lot of little bits on there. All right, that's a good thing. We want to protect that and use that because that's going to be like the base of all our flavor for the rest of our dish. Now what I'm going to add to this is I'm just going to add some of my onions. So we'll get my onions in there. I just cut these up. I'm going to add the rest of my onions in. And then we're just going to give this a little stir. You see the onions are starting to pick up a lot of the color of the chicken that was in there, which is a great thing. We want to be careful and protect the bottom of the pan. If it burns, then the whole thing is ruined. All right, in order to protect that, what we'll do is just have a little bit of chicken stock or water or vegetable stock or whatever kind of stock you have, just ready, just in case it gets too hot. We can always just cool it down a little bit. Or you can see it's cooling down a little bit, which is great. It's still cooking, it's still doing its thing, but and from here, we can kind of give it a stir and pick all that up. Now, while this is going, I know I have about 4 or 5 minutes left on my pasta. So what I want to do is take my frozen vegetables and add that to it. All right. Now, this is a great way of kind of doing two things at once. All right, I'm cooking my pasta, and I know my pasta is not completely cooked yet, but I'm cooking my pasta, and now I'm going to add my frozen vegetables in there and let them kind of cook in that water. So when my pasta is done, my vegetables will be done. Now my onions are looking great. I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit. I'm going to let those cook out just a couple minutes more. Now at this point, if I wanted to add a little bit of seasoning to this, I could, just to make sure it has a little bit of flavor. And again, we're adding my delicious herb salt. I'm also going to start to get my garlic ready. And we're going to start to cut those up. I'm going to show you a great way to cut that up. Now, how do I know my pasta is ready? One is that we can definitely go by the timer. The timer has always worked for me 100%. All right, two, we can taste it. All right, take a little piece and taste it. I know I've heard all kinds of crazy stuff. Throw it against the wall, throw it against your refrigerator. If it sticks, it's done. If it falls off, it's not done. All that crazy stuff. Please don't throw pasta anywhere. Just try to taste it and see how it is. It shouldn't be firm or white in the middle. If it is, that means it needs to cook for another maybe minute or 2 minutes. So we want to be careful with that. So our timer just went off for the pasta, so let's get this ready. Good to every last noodle. Now while this is steaming, we're going to talk about this in a minute. I want to get my peppers in the pan now. I'll get those all incorporated. Give them a stir. And you can see all the color that we have in there. Remember, the more color we have in a dish, not only the more flavor we're going to have, but the more nutritional value. So I'm just going to let that do its thing. Now our pasta right here is just steaming away, which is great. That's what we want. What's happening is it's starting to dry. All right, one of the things I want you to please fight. Don't put water on this right now, and don't put oil on it. All right. What's happening is the pasta is getting really thirsty. All that moisture is going away, it's evaporating, and it's getting thirstier. So the starch molecule in there is getting thirstier, thirstier, and thirstier. That's great. All right, I want to take it and let it sit for another couple minutes before I add it to my sauce that I'm making here. What will happen is once I add that to my sauce, you'll see it'll start to absorb a lot of the sauce. And that's what we want. We want the noodle to taste amazing and have the sauce on it. We don't want it to have fat. If I put oil on here, not only am I bringing up the fat content of it calorically, and I don't want to do that, I'm also making like a non-stick surface on the noodle. All right, now when I put it in there, I put the pasta in there, nothing's going to stick to it because it already has a coating of fat in there. All right, so please be really, really careful with that. All right, so my peppers look amazing. They smell delicious. All right, I got my onions in there, peppers in there, everything is looking good in there. Now what I'm going to do is start to add my stock. All right, so I'm going to get my chicken stock in here. And we're going to add more than we normally would, because remember, we're making a sauce. I can always add a little bit more. Now we're just going to give this a stir in there. I just want to make sure I scrape the bottom, make sure any kind of bits that are in there I scrape, get that. Now from here, what I want to do is I'm going to add my garlic. All right, now for this garlic, what we want to be careful with, and you can see my pasta is looking good right here. All right, it's almost starting to stick, and that's a good thing. All right, I love that we can cook the pasta and we can cook the vegetables together. All right, that's always the best thing to do. All right, so I'm gonna let it go just a little bit longer. I'm gonna put it right here and let it go just a little bit longer. I want it to steam up and still get a little bit more dry. All right, while I'm waiting on that, I'm gonna get my garlic cut. Now, the easiest way to cut garlic is you'll put it right flat on there and just smash it. All right, we'll do that a couple times to a couple different pieces. And you'll see how easy it smash garlic. All right, so we'll just chop this up a little bit. And then I'm gonna add this, my fresh garlic, to my pan, because I want to get all that flavor in there. Now, there's a rule when making garlic, or when using garlic. The rule is we cook it just till aroma. So I just put it in there. I'm gonna give it a stir. I'm just gonna cook it until I can smell that garlic already. It smells amazing. So now I know, time for the next step. Next step is our lemon juice. Now we have some fresh lemon juice in here, and I'm just gonna add this in there. How much lemon juice do you wanna add? That's totally up to you. All right, I want you to taste it and see where it's at. If you think you want it a little bit more tart, and then we can add a little bit more. All right, if you want it a little bit less tart, then you just add a little bit at a time, and you can just add a little bit less. All right, that's totally up to you. I can smell it. It smells so good. I'm gonna add a little bit more. I like it a little tart. Add it all. All right, I'm gonna give it a stir. I want to taste it. Oh my goodness, that's so good. One of the things that you want to do, taste and then re-season. All right, if I taste it now, I can always make my adjustments. But once I add everything to it and it's already cooked, it's a little bit harder to kind of re-season it then. So we just want to make sure we taste it here. It tastes great. I re-seasoned it. Now, I'm going to take my pasta, and you can see it's starting to stick together. That is perfect. You can see my broccoli looks bright green, which is perfect. Now we're just going to add that to our liquid. And now I'm just going to start mixing this in. All right, I want to make sure that pasta absorbs all that liquid. So this is not going to be a very heavy sauce that has a lot of tomatoes and cream and butter. We don't need any of that to add tremendous flavor into it. All right, and you can see the actual pasta itself is starting to get color too. All right, it's starting to look like saturated, like it's absorbing a lot of that sauce, which is what we want. All right, now we have just 2 more important ingredients to add. We're going to give it a blast of some vitamin C and also a blast of some lycopene. Now, if you don't know what those are, that's okay. We'll say a blast of our lycopene, which is our cherry tomatoes. So we're going to just sprinkle in our cherry tomatoes. And our blast of vitamin C, if you didn't know what that was, that's our parsley. And all we're going to do is just chop this up. So we run our knife through there. And I know some people will take it and cut the stems off and don't use the stems. I'm not a big fan of that. If I'm paying for the whole thing, I want to use the whole thing. All right, there's nothing wrong with using the stems at all. They have a lot of flavor in the stems as well. So you want to make sure you use it all. Now, how big or small you mince this up, it's totally up to you. All right, if you want bigger chunks in there, you can put bigger chunks in there. But what it's going to do is going to give it a blast of nutritional value, but it's also going to give it a really nice flavor, a really fresh, bright flavor. So we're going to add that to our dish. Make sure we get everything in there. Then again, I'm going to go with my tongs and just mix everything up. All right, it looks beautiful. It's got a lot of beautiful color. And then remember, that color translates into nutritional value, which translates into a healthier dish. So we got that mixed in. That looks beautiful. Your dish is pretty much done. So what we're gonna do now is just do a quick plate up so I can get my dinner ready. So to plate this up, we're just gonna kind of get in there, give it a couple twists, grab some noodles or some pasta. Then I want to go around the edges because the vegetables always tend to go around the edge, and I want to get a lot of that vegetable in there as well. I like broccoli and I love tomatoes. They're so sweet, so I want to get some of that in there as well. So I got that. Gotta get my chicken. I can't forget my chicken either. And all we're gonna do with our chicken is just give it a little slice. And just get that right on there. So there you go. Getting healthy and feeling better doesn't have to be difficult or expensive. I promise. We'll always make it fun, easy, and delicious. And we'll do it one plate at a time. I'll see you next time.